A very wonderful author named Stephanie Carroll. Welcome, Stephanie. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to
Yes.
be here today.
Well, good. I'd like to start out always finding a little bit about your past. I know that you have a wonderful education, and I'm just wondering, how old were you when you decided that you might write?
I was actually pretty young when I decided that I wanted to be a writer of some sort. Honestly, I think it was sometime in elementary school that I started to understand that I had this passion. Interestingly enough, though, as I grew up, I didn't think of it as something that I would pursue as a career.
Oh.
I'd gotten the impression early on that you can't make money as a writer.
Oh.
And so I always thought of it as something that I would do, I was like after I retire or something. It would be something I did someday, maybe, as a hobby. But after I finished my education at Fresno State and I graduated, I was working as a journalist. I started writing fiction for fun because I finally had time, and I immediately realized that that was what I wanted to do with my life, that was the kind of writing I wanted to do.
Fantastic. So what was the first great idea you had for a book?
The first great idea, I actually had an idea when I was 13 for a book. It was a thriller, but it never really got anywhere past the first chapter.
Oh, okay.
It took me some time to really hone my craft before I could write more fully. So my next big great idea that became a full-fledged story was A White Room.
Oh, The White Room. Tell us about The White Room.
A White Room is a Victorian age story, and it's about a young woman who has to sacrifice her dream of becoming a nurse because she needs to marry a man that she doesn't really know to support her destitute family.
Mm.
He moves her to an isolated town and into a gothic house that she can't stand. And her misery edges toward madness until she starts secretly nursing to the poor in spite of her husband, who prosecutes unlicensed practitioners.
Wow, that's very interesting. And
Thank you.
Is this the book here?
This is it. This is A White Room.
Oh, this is The White Room. And I just love this cover. If I saw this cover, I would immediately go and buy it.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
the kind of cover you want on your book.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Beautiful lady in a beautiful gown. And so you really like something with a little bit of history in it, right?
Yes. I pretty much specialize in Victorian and Gilded Age, American history, and women's history. Those are really my focuses. I studied history at Fresno State, and I studied social sciences at West Hills College in Lemoore, and those are what my degrees are in. So I love history.
Oh, I do too. I think my novel's history too. So,
oh, really?
So I'm really into that, and I'm into women's rights and things like that. So I like to really express how I feel about that.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is exactly what my stuff is about. It's got women's issues in it. It's got women's rights. It's got women's history, and I love to talk about my novel in March because it's Women's History Month.
That's right, that is. That's great because sometimes we just sort of get fought, and we need a little push there and a little month for ourselves.
Exactly.
Well, I'm really excited about this, and I'm definitely, I have to buy it because of the cover and how wonderful it's going to be inside.
Thank you.
And you have another book out too, don't you?
Well, I have a short story that was featured in Legacy, an anthology, and that's this one right here.
Legacy.
Yes. This was a project put on by Velvet Morning Press. They got 14 different authors together, and they asked us all to write on the topic of legacy. And so it's an amazing anthology. All the stories are so full of just passion and heart because it's writing about this very important topic to everybody. The story that I wrote is called Forget Me Not, and it's another Gilded Age story. And it's about a young woman who is about to turn 30, and she knows that she is going to die in 3 days' time.
Oh,
and so, it's pretty intense. And the story is about her efforts in the last 3 days of her life to do something that would make sure that she's remembered. Because she doesn't have children, she doesn't have a husband, she hasn't done anything significant with her life, and she's afraid that she's going to die forgotten.
So what does she do, or is that a secret?
Well, that's kind of what the story's all about. She tries to do a series of things, and they don't seem to be working. And more it seems like she's just going to have to deal with this and face her own death without being remembered. It has to do with her family, and it's the thing that really excites me about this story is the setting. It is set in the Gilded Age, like I said, but it's set in Colma, California, which is a town that is known for having more deceased residents than living because it's full of cemeteries. The town is really really interesting about their history. Their saying is it's great to be alive in Colma because they have nothing but cemeteries there.
No, that's amazing.
It's a very interesting setting.
So she writes a story about this town, or what?
Well, she's living in the town.
Oh, she's living in the town.
Yes, and this town, the reason that it's full of cemeteries is that it's where San Francisco buries their dead. San Francisco,
oh, I've heard of that.
Yes,
yeah.
They passed an ordinance in the 1900s that prohibited any more burials in the city, and then eventually they passed another ordinance that required everybody to excavate their dead and rebury them, and most of them were reburied in Colma. And so she lives there in this town of cemeteries, and she lives in her home that used to be her family's home, but everybody's kind of left, and it's just her. And she tries to reconnect with her family, and she tries to do a variety of things. But you got to kind of read it to find out what those things were.
That's fascinating. And these books, who was your publisher here?
For A White Room, the publisher is Unhinged Books, which is my publisher. I started a publishing company in order to publish the book.
Wow.
And the publisher for Legacy is Velvet Morning Press.
That's fantastic. This is so interesting that you start your own. That is, I've never heard anybody do that before,
Really?
and it's fabulous.
Well, it's starting your own publishing company is something that is happening more and more. We're having in the publishing industry what is known as an indie revolution. And so various technology has come about that has it's made it easier for people to do this, to create their own publishing company and publish their own books, hire out editors and cover designers and typesetters. And it's possible now for an individual to do it as an entrepreneur. And
That is so fascinating. It's so wonderful. Finally,
Yes.
we've got a break that if you have you might have the big bestseller in the world, and yet it never gets published. That's what's so heartbreaking.
Yes, and there are so many authors right now who are making success doing this. The Martian, which was recently a very big movie that started out as a self-published novel. E.L. James' 50 Shades of Grey started out in the indie circuit. So there is a lot of people who are making success, and their books are becoming movies, and they're becoming bestsellers, and they did it all themselves.
I think that's the most fantastic thing that could happen.
Yes, it can happen.
And what else can we learn about you? Is there something, what can we do to help you?
Well, right now I am trying to celebrate Women's History Month. I want to do this every year, and it's a hard thing to celebrate. How do you celebrate something like this? So I decided this year to encourage people to go out and read a book that involves women's history, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. Just pick a book and read and get involved in the space, the culture, the time period. And to sort of help encourage this, I've created a list on my website, and I have a whole list of books, fiction and nonfiction, and I'm asking people who have a good recommendation to go out and recommend something. Go post on my website a recommendation, or tweet it, or Facebook it, and suggest books, and I will add those recommendations onto the list.
That's a fabulous idea. You're great.
Thank you.
Yes, women's history. My books are about history too, so
I
that
have to
means
get your
an awful
books on the
lot to
list.
me. Yes.
Yes, I have to get your books on the list.
Okay. Okay, and I'm going to read this one.
Yes, please.
So it's really wonderful having you today.
Thank
and
you.
come
So
again
wonderful
another
being
time.
on. Yes.
Your next book, make sure that you come again.
I have
Okay?
another book in the works. It's
You
almost
do?
finished, yes. It's about the first death by electrocution, and it's told through the eyes of the prison warden's daughter who lived in the prison during the year that the condemned man awaited his death in 1890, Auburn, New York.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
It's a very interesting history, and the book is currently with test readers, so it's almost finished. It's almost ready.
That's fabulous.
So that'll be coming out soon. So I hope to come back and share that with you guys.
Yes, do. And it's been
Yes.
wonderful having you here,
Oh, thank you so
Stephanie.
much. It's been a pleasure to be here.
And I know your books are going to do really good.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I want to read your books and get them up on my
Definitely.
website and share them with my readers.
Right on.